Our city has seen a record number of homicides over the past 5 years, and our police department says it solved most of those cases. But what happens to the alleged killers when they have their day in court?
Tonight in a Target 7 investigation, we learned that many convicted of murder spend little time behind bars. Now, some of the video you will see tonight may be disturbing. Here's John Cardinelli.
We never in a million years thought anything like that would happen to her.
This is what happened to Rod Honstein's girlfriend.
You know, we knew the crime situation in Albuquerque, but we're like probably 99.9% of the people who live here, oh, that'll never happen to me.
She worked at a massage shop, and she was robbed, dragged by the hair, and beaten.
That was when I was informed that there were police at her shop, and that's when I basically lost it.
Sue Fong's death here is one of 448 homicides that have happened in Albuquerque in the last 5 years, and those numbers have set records. In this case, these two men have been arrested for the murder and are awaiting trial. But what happens to those convicted of the murders?
If you have a decent attorney, they're going to go in and they're going to plead it down to a second-degree murder, which then the killer is only facing the potential of 15 years.
These are the faces of some of the people convicted of a killing. Below their photos is the number of years they were sentenced to. Target 7 examined every case in which someone was charged with first-degree murder in Bernalillo County in the last 5 years. We found 2/3 of completed cases ended in a plea agreement, and on average, the suspect is sentenced to 14.5 years in prison.
We have a very high standard for first-degree murder. The Supreme Court has articulated how much of a burden that is on the state to prove.
Target 7 was able to find most of the agreements were pled down to second-degree murder. Current Attorney General Raul Torres was responsible for most of those prosecutions when he was the Bernalillo County District Attorney.
If the district attorneys were to go to trial on that available evidence, they're more likely than not to end up in a second-degree position anyway.
In New Mexico, someone convicted of second-degree murder can be sentenced to up to 15 years in prison, though they could be sentenced to no prison time at all.
The penalty for second-degree murder needs to be increased.
Look at the homicide sentencing range nationally, and is New Mexico in line with what other states are doing?
Target 7 did just that, looking at sentencing guidelines in all 50 states. New Mexico is the only one without a minimum prison sentence for second-degree murder. In Texas, the minimum amount is 5 years. Colorado, 16 years. Arizona, it's 10. And in Utah, it's 15.
Do you believe there needs to be tougher penalties for second-degree murder?
Yes, I think if you raised the floor to a minimum of 10, I think you would certainly move that average number higher, but I also think that it would change the way in which some of those plea negotiations are conducted and would give prosecutors and police officers, frankly, more confidence that the system and the punishment is actually going to match the nature and severity of the crime.
Since 2016, lawmakers at the Roundhouse have introduced 7 bills to increase those penalties. None of them passed. Former Bernalillo County Sheriff Darren White has lobbied to change the sentencing guidelines.
It's time for Santa Fe to wake up and understand that this is not going to change. We're going to continue to be one of the most violent states in the nation until we start holding killers accountable.
For Honstein, his loss goes beyond any amount of time someone could serve in prison.
And I miss her obviously terribly, but I miss watching and seeing what she could have become. That's what I really miss the most, is what she could have become.
For Target 7, I'm John Cardinelli.
Out of the 270 cases Target 7 looked at, 161 are still pending.